Hi, I'm Tara. I'm a autistic and ADHD clinician, a developmental educator, which is a specialisation of disability. I'm actually an educator as well. Anyway, I often get asked to speak and give my perspective on different topics with regard to my neurotype. One thing I did want to mention is rejection-sensitive dysphoria. RSD, as we call it, or rejection-sensitive dysphoria, is part of the ADHD neurotype. Now, everyone who's ADHD will have a component of RSD. How much of it is very person-specific. Some people have a really strong RSD profile, and some have a much smaller RSD profile. RSD is being quite hypersensitive to rejection. So that means a person who doesn't have RSD might get some feedback, ask some questions about it, move on with their life. Someone who's RSD might get quite impacted by the feedback. So that feedback is a much bigger thing for them. The way they process that rejection as they feel it is amplified. So you might check someone's work and be like, wow, you did really great work. I fixed up a couple of typos there, but the rest of it was amazing. Someone with an RSD profile, a strong one, is going to just hear, you can't spell for crap. That was terrible. So it means if you have a strong RSD profile, that feedback can be really difficult for you. And it can be really hard to fight those feelings that you have, that you're not liked, not wanted, feeling rejected. Parents can really struggle with children when they're RSD because it's like they can't correct anything without the child getting really upset and distressed. RSD presents hugely in school systems because these children who have these strong RSD profiles, they're so hypersensitive to teachers' feedback, to not fitting in with friends, to not feeling like they're wanted in social circles. It can be really, really difficult for them. You can see RSD by children having a strong hypersensitivity to rejection, being overly concerned if they feel people don't like them, or being really needing a lot of emotional validation from mum or dad or people around them. The way to respond and support someone who does have a strong RSD profile is, first, try and make sure they have access to consistent emotional validation. So if you're like really emotionally validating one day and then quite withdrawn and distant the next, an RSD person's going to struggle with that because they're going to be trying to get that high level of emotional validation that they had before from you. So having consistent emotional validation is really important. Genuine compliments are really important. So if you just say, oh yeah, I like all the clothes you wear, that's not genuine. The person won't accept that as a compliment. It sounds fake, it's false, it's not about them. Another tip is don't use the feedback sandwich with someone who's RSD. So as an example, feedback sandwich is when you give a compliment, then you might make a constructive comment, something developmental, then you envelope it with another compliment. Now that's great with a lot of people because it helps manage difficult feedback because you've got compliments either side of it. For a person with RSD, all they hear is the constructive comment and they lose the compliments. So when I'm with people who are RSD, if I need to give them tricky feedback or something constructive and developmental that needs a bit of change, I just do that and I help them manage that feedback. If I give them compliments as well, I know I'm going to lose that compliment amongst the feedback. So I save the compliment for another time when they can just access that great feedback and that compliment. Another trick for someone who is RSD or has a strong RSD profile is you can use other forms of communication than face-to-face. Face-to-face is the hardest to do for anybody, essentially. So if you have social anxiety, if you're worried about rejection, you're constantly thinking people are judging you. So people with strong RSD profiles will be very hypervigilant about people in their community. I don't think they like me. I don't want to go out like that. Oh my God, they're looking at my hair. They don't want me here. That's the kind of thing that you're thinking constantly if you've got a strong RSD profile. So it can be really hard. So accessing communication in ways other than face-to-face can be great. Over the computer, text messages instead of phone calls, anything text-based can be much easier for someone with an RSD profile to manage. And remember that consistent emotional validation. A lot of people I work with that have strong RSD profiles really struggled around COVID, around fly-in, fly-out parenting as well, because everything changed. And the changes make it really hard for someone who has a strong RSD profile because they don't know how to get that emotional validation in a consistent way that they need to feel like they're on top of things.